I'm not gonna play any music. I'm going to phase my brain into doing a YouTube stream. So bear with me while I set everything up. Ange, how you doing, man? It's just you and me, it looks like. I'm gonna eat my snack bar while I set things up. I have not eaten yet today. Nice. Okay. It looks like I haven't set up products in my store, so I gotta do that. Okay, that looks good. That looks good. Glad you're doing well. Let's see what else we got. I gotta go to my YouTube channel and make sure that I'm there. There we are. Okay, great. Make sure that I'm there. There we are. Okay, great. A little delay there, I see. Make sure that I'm there. There we are. Not 100% live, but I noticed that because I was playing music that I was getting flagged on YouTube, and I don't think my live streams were getting broadcast. So we're going to try the uncomfortably silent episode today. Preparing for a convention, which I got to pick up my rental car tomorrow. I'm going to drive to Maine, roughly 2.5 to 3 miles north of me. I haven't been to Maine in a few years. So I'm looking forward to that. Make me mod, not co-host. Okay. How do we do that? Don't want to be a co-host, huh? Okay. I'll click on your account. Allow to moderate. Are you sure you want to add Ainge 21 to the stream moderators? Yes. Successfully nominated moderator. So I think Ainge 21 is officially a moderator. Don't forget to take our poll. I have a game that I do every once in a while. Usually when we get 10 people in the room, I like to get a bunch of people playing, but you only really need 2 people to play. When 2 people play mental metal, they can win a ton of shit. When 10 people play mental metal, the game I think can go faster and people can still win a ton of shit, but the chances of winning a ton of shit are less because you got more people playing. So I know Ainge has seen the Mental Metal game, but I'm not sure if you all have seen it. If everyone in the room. We're going to try an all silent episode today because I'm live streaming on YouTube. I would like to slowly start phasing part of my online presence onto YouTube. There's quite a delay on YouTube. You're a moderator. All right. I have a mod. Welcome in. Ainge is my Ainge is my moderator now. World famous. Wow. Lay it on thick, moderator. There we go. I finished this yesterday off camera. I'm going to share with Ainge and the rest of the group some of the items I'm bringing to the show in Maine. This would be $100 here on Whatnot, but at the Mid-Maine Comic and Toy Show, head sketches and busts are $150. Anybody interested in this guy? Take it off the hands. Take it right out of the hands of the Mid-Maine clientele today. Buy it here on Whatnot for $100. Because I like to sit on my butt in my own studio. I don't mind driving. I like to drive, but it's so much easier to roll out of bed and sell stuff than it is to roll out of bed, jump in a car, drive for 2.5 hours, and sell stuff. So consequently, the prices will go up a little bit. I also have to sign on for New York. Keep forgetting to do that. All right. Daredevil. Check out this Dr. Doom. Get it while you can. At shows $50 more. Yeah, that's how you do it. So sassy. I like it. Same here, Daredevil. I did this on the stream. Was it yesterday? I think I did it yesterday. $100 here and Whatnot. $150 at the Mid-Maine Comics and Toy Convention. What else we got going on here? This bad boy right here, Spider-Man Plus Rogues. I think I have it as low as 400 here. Back before I had all 30 of the characters. But here we go, 200 for a single figure at a show, and 100 for an additional figure. That's 200. And then we've got 100 for this little mishmash down in here. So that's 2, 3, 4. And then the rest I treat as a background. So this bad boy is $500 at a show. It's true. If you had asked me for a single figure here on Whatnot, it'd be $150. An additional figure like Doc here, very complete, would be an additional $100. I think because these figures are smaller and they're cropped, I threw in 3 of them for an additional 100, and the rest that are all just kind of similar sized in the background be an extra 100. So it'd be like 450. And I think I auctioned this off 400 here on Whatnot. So you'd be saving $100. Anybody interested in grabbing this? Let's make sure it's in the auction. Yeah, sure enough, I got Spidey with villains. What? Question mark. That's the image inside that auction item is this before I started adding all the additional figures. I realized that probably not a lot of people are going to want to drop $500 on a single piece. So that's why I drew these 2 heads yesterday. And that's why I'm trying to keep the rest of the portfolio kind of simple. Here's the single figure Spidey drawing right here, 150 here on Whatnot. But at the mid coast, or the mid, I keep calling it mid coast, it's mid Maine Comics and Toy Show. This will be listed for $200. Anybody interested in Spidey, single figure, let me know. I'll roll him out. I think you can buy him in the bin too. Let's see if he's in the bin. Spidey. I updated a lot of my bin. A week or so ago. Yep, there he is. It's item 206 in the bin, single figure 150. If you want, I can run it as an auction, but why bother? Just jump in there. Okay, here we go. So, headshot, much like Daredevil here, goes for 150. And then I added color to this one. So we're going to do 200 for this guy. This is a jam piece starter upper. The design already provided. I've designed specific areas so you can take this specific drawing to other conventions. Visit some of your favorite artists and have them draw whatever you like inside these spaces. Anybody interested in the Batman jam piece starter upper? He's in the bin, $50 off. Go mod. Mod, it's just you and me, bud. Let's see if anybody is in the YouTube. Anybody in the YouTube? Nope. Too bad, Ange, you can't moderate the YouTube as well. I wonder if there's ways to drum up some attention in YouTube. Joe is an icon in the business. His work is amazing. Thank you for sharing the live stream, Ange. Here's Spidey 2099 versus Pack Rat. Already labeled. Single figure, 150. Additional figure, 100. That's 250 here on Whatnot. At the Mid-Maine Comic and Toy Festival, $300 for 2 figures. Still a good deal, I'll tell you. What do some of the A-listers out there charge? Spidey 2099 versus Travesty. I created and designed this character when I was working on Spidey 2099 for Marvel Comics. It was my first official gig. at Marvel with Spidey 2099. Good, a lot of fun. Holy cow! Single figure, Doctor Doom. Has anybody seen Fantastic Four movie yet? Ange, have you seen it yet? Showing off your stuff. Yes, I'm prepping for a convention this weekend, Ramona. Single figure here on the stream is 150, but at the Mid-Main Comics and Toy Show, where I'll be on Saturday, this bad boy is $200. Because in order to get to the Mid-Main comic show, why do we call it a car show? I don't know anything about cars. I've got to pack my bags. I got to rent a car. I got to drive 2.5 hours. I got to put all of these items into a box to protect them so that they travel well and don't get damaged in transit. I got to pack up my new Zodiacs comics. I got to pack up my Venom trades, my sketchbooks, my jam piece starter uppers, and I got to spend 2.5+ hours on the road, plus an hour at least to set up. You should see me setting up. It's pretty crazy. Every show's a little bit different. Space is a little bit different. Your location, who you're next to, and stuff like that. It's a whole thing. It's like an art form, just designing your own table. And so it takes me at least an hour to set up. So all that time, I could be sitting here drawing, creating, working on new Zodiac's Sagittarius. So we've got to work that discount into my lovely whatnot followers. Make sure you guys get a deal, and at the same time, make it worth my while. When I do all that traveling, got to make it work for me. I should be reimbursed. That one's got a label. Reimbursed for my time. I like to do that. Oh, Rogue Gambit 200. Oh, that's a good deal right there. And we haven't done Wolverine yet. Headshot Wolverine is 100. We got a hand in there, so I'm going to ask for a little bit more for Wolverine. Here, Wolverine is $100 at the Mid-Main Comics and Toy Show. Wolverine is $175. Welcome in, everyone. Any questions, please ask. That's not fair. What's not fair? These pieces are amazing. Ramona, what's not fair? You must discuss. I'm going to check my YouTube channel. See if there's anybody in there. I've got one watching now, which I imagine is me. All right, so these are done. I also have sketchbooks for sale. I'm not sure what to do with this one. I know they're $30 here. It should be at least 40, but here we could do auctioning and stuff like that. I'm not sure how to play this, as I haven't taken the sketchbooks out yet. I think this one I'll should I should can buy it without a remark for $30 and buy it with a remark for $40, $50. Let's keep it simple. You can't buy a blank. So we're gonna test fly. We're gonna test fly the sketchbooks. No big markup on the sketchbooks. I'll test fly them at the Mid-Main Comics and Toy Show and see how that goes. The prices aren't fair. Why aren't they fair? I think they're fair. I think they're very fair. Especially considering they favor VIPs like you. Ooh. X-Men. 3 X-Men's. I'm learning my lesson. I really am. I'm not really learning my lesson. Otherwise, I wouldn't have drawn this. Whenever I draw Spidey, Venom, or Wolverine, the pieces sell. There's not even any breathing space. They just sell. So I'm taking a risk by spending all this time and energy drawing Doctor Doom, drawing Cyclops, drawing Doctor Doom again, drawing Rogue. There's just not as many fans of those characters. So when people walk by and they see something that grabs their eye, they're more likely to love Spider-Man or Venom or Wolverine than Travesty. I don't even think I'll take these to the show. I'll take them. Ainge says, create another poll. What character would you like to see me sketch today? Spider-Man, Venom, Doctor Doom, Wolverine, other. Mention in chat. Okay. Can I do 2 polls or do I have to cancel this poll? I know the way that I consume whatnot, it's channel surfing. That's why I'm asking about. You have to cancel the other poll. I just noticed that. There we go. How's that? Mention in chat. I will mention it in chat. Okay. How's that? I've got one person watching in YouTube, and that's probably me. Is it true that when you do a giveaway that people just find out somehow that you're doing a giveaway? And they just suddenly enter your stream? You can see it go up. Oh yeah, you can. If you're scrolling, you can see the. If you're scrolling through different streams, you can see that there's a giveaway. Maybe we'll do a giveaway today. Should I give this away? Although people in your stream. Yeah, but I gotta have people in the stream. Like right now, it's you, me, and Ange. So if I run a giveaway, well, the surfers will see that I have a giveaway up at the top, and then they'll kind of stick around. Is that how it goes? That's how it goes with me, but most of the time, the giveaways are kind of duds. So I don't often stick around. Remember DA Comics? They did a giveaway. It was pretty crazy. It was an entire box full of comics, but they were comics that you would never buy, right? I don't stick. Yeah, you can't play. You can't play. Is there a Netherlands whatnot? There must be a whatnot in the Netherlands because I've been to the Netherlands. There, granted, it was 30 years ago, but there was a lovely comics community out there. Some great comic shops, all kinds of European comic. The whole scene, the European comic scene, very hardcore graphic novel stuff. Good fun. I took home quite a few European graphic novels. I still have a lot of them. That was pretty good. I'm bringing these with me to the Mid-Maine Comic and Toy Show. Like I said, draw a lot of Spideys. They'll sell. Who doesn't like Spidey? I want to meet that person. Probably a certain orange-skinned, white-eyed clown. Venom, he'll sell. Batman, even Batman, no guarantee that Batman sells with me. My experience. Even though I have drawn Batman for DC Comics, I did pin up and I did several trading cards. Spidey, he'll sell. Harley, even Harley is a risk. Moon Knight, I don't know why I did Moon Knight. I actually know why I did Moon Knight. I did Moon Knight because he's so easy to draw. So I'm trying to, there's a little corner cutting happening here. It's just very fast. Little doodles that I often do on people's prints when they buy Moon Knight prints. No guarantee that'll sell. Deadpool, this will probably sell. Deadpool sells. Wolverine sells. The end. I get a lot of people who ask for Spawn. Do you have any Spawn? But they never pull the trigger. So here's me honoring those people. Here's a Spawn. It's already done. Take it home or don't. Another Spidey, because you got to do Spidey. And another Venom, which I like, with the saliva signature. Also, oh, these are rare. I have to do a tag sticker for these. There we go. Only 25. I hope people don't think I'm only 25 in print. Only 25 printed. Spidey, Venom. I don't stick because they mostly do national, of course. I've got it, don't I? They don't use Whatnot. No kidding. I have a moderator today. He's Whatnot VIP, age 21. He has his own retailer account. He's a pro. I've seen him in many other streams besides mine. He knows the lay of the land. He's a longtime VIP right here on the stream. I think his first appearance was somewhere in episode 30. So he goes way back. Let's see. Only 100 printed. Nice. Readable, legible. I'm ready for the mid-main comics and toy show. That's all I had to do. That's all I had to do was just write on some Post-its. Now I'm ready to go. All right. We've got one single request for Spidey, so I'm going to use that. Today's moderator is Age 21, the creator of the Celestial Weaver. Draw McFarlane Spider-Man and a Spider-Man blank. That will keep them hooked to the stream. How about if I draw a Joe Spider-Man? That will work too. I had a feeling. It's weird without music, I have to say. I usually work with music playing or podcasts playing. It's odd that it's so quiet. But it's all good. We're experimenting. Where are you YouTubers at? There's a bone right here. There's a bone right here. Clavicle. There's a bone right here. There's a bone right here. That's, I don't know what that is. Deltoids are a mystery. pectoralis major, clavicle. And then he's going to be spinning webs. So in front of the body, I'm going to have all kinds of web action going on. Is Ramona still in the room? Ramona, I'm wondering if you've seen not Spider-Man, Superman, the movie yet. Boop, boo, doo, doo, doo. I have a moderator today. We are on the same wavelength in regards to music. Used to listening to 007 theme songs. I know. Geek Dude in the house. I know we Geek Dude. Joe's working on a Spidey. I know the 007 soundtracks are a lot of fun to work with, to have playing in your background. I think I need to draw the webbing before I start working on the body. Should I ink the webbing? Am I there yet? No, I'm not there yet. I gotta draw the hands. Okay, so the hands. So the webs come out of the base of his palm, which is over here. Where are you? Do, do, do. Do, do, do. I guess I'm starting ink. Do, 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 do. Do, 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 do. We get 10 people in the room. We play a game called Mental Metal. And Joe gives prizes, dollars away. It's truly impressive to watch this. Why so, Stone? Joe, tell us about your first Spider-Man gig. My first Spider-Man gig was on a book called Spider-Man 2099. I was working at Valiant Comics at the time. I had co-created a series called Secret Weapons for Valiant, which was kind of like their Avengers meets Mission Impossible kind of vibe book. I definitely co-created it because the editorial direction was definitely not what I had in mind, which is cool. I was new to the industry, happy to be working steady. Certainly happy to have had the opportunity to write and pencil a book, which is, I don't see that a lot. I don't see that a lot in the industry. Very rarely nowadays do artists also write. It's weird. Unless it's their, indie stuff. I think Ryan Otley wrote a few issues of the Hulk recently. That's the closest thing that I can think of. To what my experience was at Valiant. But it was time for me to move on. I was on a mission since, 10 years old? My first rejection letter at Marvel Comics came when I was 10. So I was on a mission to draw Spider-Man since at least 10 years old. So the time came, I think it was very mutual. Time came for me to move on from Valiant Comics and to make my move to Marvel. So my friend Kenny's Lopez, a very cool guy. I hope Kenny's doing well. I haven't seen him in decades. Kenny, everybody knew Kenny. Everybody loved Kenny. Kenny was working at Valiant, DC, Marvel. He was working for everybody. He was a letterer. And Kenny took me into Marvel Comics with my portfolio. I brought some of the most recent artwork that I had done for Valiant. I should have pushed the writing just as hard as the penciling. I don't even think I pitched myself as a writer. I'm not sure what I was thinking back then, except that I wanted to draw Spider-Man comics. So, so I brought my comic samples in. Kenny showed me around, introduced me to some of the editors, and I got a job on the spot. I got a job offer that day. So the editor's name was Joey Cavallari. and Joey was the editor on the 2099 books. So there's a whole office dedicated just to the 2099 line of comics, and Joey was the editor. And his assistants were Matt and Leah. And I'm not sure what Matt is up to, but I see Leah occasionally in my social media. I think she's an editor at a book publisher, if I recall correctly. Very nice people. So Joey goes, give me a couple days, I'll get you a script. So a couple days later, a script comes. Script comes in. I think I picked it up in person, and Spidey 2099. It's a fill-in story, inventory story, and when I finished the story, actually there were two of them, I believe. Yeah, there were two inventory stories I did, and then Joey called me and said, "Congratulations, you're the new penciler on Spider-Man 2099." I was like, "Oh, cool, that's great." So I took over after Rick Leonardi, who's the co-creator of Spidey 2099. That's not intimidating at all. But I have to say that while I was working on Spidey 2099, the intention was always to draw Spider-Man, current day Spider-Man. So I drew Miguel O'Hara, Spider-Man 2099 civilian identity. I drew him like I would draw Peter Parker. And Spidey 2099's webs, I drew the webs the way I would draw Spider-Man 29, Spider-Man present day webs, which were very, that kind of McFarlane spaghetti stuff, which we all still draw to this day. Funny that McFarlane gets the credit for the spaghetti webbing when it was Michael Golden that actually did it. Let's say that Toddy made it popular. And Todd was swiping Michael Golden's treatment of webbing. So that was my first Marvel gig. Short answer: 6 issues of Spidey 2099. But I always wanted to draw Amazing, the Peter Parker character. That was my thing. Spidey 2099 was not enough. So those inventory issues didn't come out until much later. The first story that I did had a character called Vlad the Impaler in it. I think that appeared in an issue of 2099 Unlimited some months later. But the first book that hit the shelves was Spidey 2099 number 26. So that's what you could say is my first published work at Marvel. Even though it wasn't my first work at Marvel. It wasn't my first paid work at Marvel. And then it didn't take long. I did, I guess, the life's goal was kind of achieved. What do you call it? Goal unlocked or whatever. Level unlocked, something like that. I don't play video games. I'm going blank on the phrase. So it's like, okay, what do you do there? And the one thing I was doing since I was 10 years old, I was creating my own characters. So ever since I was 10, I must have over 100 comics that I made as a kid. They're like eight pagers, 10 pagers, 20 pagers. Tracing, not so easy. So I got about 100 of them that I made, between age 10. I know I made comics before that, but I don't. Not a lot of them survive. So I've got an age. I've got a comic book that I made when I was 6. And these are all original characters. This isn't me like drawing Spider-Man comics or something. I don't know why I never did that. Would have been perfect practice to just draw and write my own Spider-Man comics, but I did not do that. I created my own original characters since 6 years old. And so as the goal unlocked achievement starts to wear thin on me, I'm like, you know what I'd love to do is I'd love to do what they do over at Image and make my own comics. Create our own comics. And me and a friend of mine, Dave Klistic, we created a character called Megahertz. And just for the hell of it, well, not for the hell of it, we had it pretty well plotted out. Just for the hell of it. We actually were picked up by a small publisher called Ard Wolf. My friend Clifford Meth had his own publishing company, mostly focused on his own work, but he was looking to publish independent stuff. So we release Megahertz through Aardwolf, through Diamond Publishing, and the orders came in for 500 copies. And neither Aardwolf nor I was very happy with that number. So just weird timing, weird coincidence. I happened to get Eric Larson's contact info, and Eric at the time was kind of signing on creators to do their own stuff, and so we pitched him Megahertz, and Eric was like, "Yeah, this looks good. Let's give it a go." So Aardwolf and I parted ways amicably. I would still consider Clifford a friend of mine. We go over to Image. The orders come in for from Diamond, 5,000 copies. So there you go. Same book, different publisher. 10 times the order. Pretty cool. Pretty weird how that works. So we caught the tail end of that Image wave. I was fairly well convinced that in a short amount of time that Megahertz would catch on and it would be really, really huge. To this day, I'm very proud of it. I think it came out well. Should have been in color. We made some sacrifices for budget reasons at the time. But I was fairly convinced that it was going to be a hit. And it wasn't a hit. And this was the Image comic. This is the San Diego Comic-Con exclusive. We spent a lot of money printing 3,000 of these just to exclusives for the show. They have a black cover. The regular Image comic has the price and the number up here, and it has an ad on the back. So there are 3,000 of these Image Megahertz Comics. Now, Megahertz predicted corporate CEO celebrity fame, adulation, uh, idolatry of the corporate CEO. It also predicted the assassination of the corporate CEO. It also predicted the arrival of the showbiz corrupt criminal president who wears makeup. It also predicted cyber warfare. These are basically the USA's cyber warfare branch of the military. They were called the Liberators, and we also predicted the police as a public service, as a punishment for criminals, that uh, they had to perform public service, and so all of the cops are actually serving time. they're helping they're helping solve crimes as a way to uh, offset their own criminal sentence. And so we didn't have time to get into that in the first three issues, but that was the intention, and we haven't seen that yet. But give it time. And well, he's the corporate assassin. There's our corporate assassin. His name is Megahertz. He's kind of like Frankenstein meets the Terminator, I suppose. So this was the original Image comic book. And then 25 years later, which is 2 years ago, um, I colored the Image comic. This is the way it should have looked back in the day. There's our corporate makeup wearing criminal president. Um, so I colored it and gave it a new cover with this badass foil cardstock cover. Freaking badass cover. So this is one of my proudest moments in my career right here. Megahertz. So I also added a section in the back of the book, which has some of the developmental sketches for Megahertz, the main character, and some of the main characters. So the Liberator was a character inspired by some William Gibson novels that I had read about cyberpunks, and loved the idea so much that I kind of folded or reinvented the Liberator character for the new Zodiacs. So the new Zodiacs, Aquarius, his name is the Liberator, and he is the cybernetic Robin Hood of cyberspace. These are the Liberators here, and here is our criminal president in various uh, outfits, kind of like a paper doll. I was drawing. He kind of looks like a paper doll with different costumes on. So this was all meant to be parody, some kind of tongue-in-cheek, sarcastic parody. Didn't intend for it to actually happen. But here we are. Megahertz. He's in the bin. I have an $15 at convention. We have a special offer here in the bin. You get the mid-grade copy of the San Diego Comic-Con exclusive edition, plus the Megahertz 25th anniversary edition. You get both of those for $20 here in the bin. Because I can't draw for shit. I had a feeling. I bet you could if you spent 40 years sitting at the table. would you say Spider-Man is your favorite thing to draw, or do you have something else that carries a special place? Spidey's my favorite character to draw that I did not personally create, but I'd much rather draw my own stuff. I think it's better. It's more exciting for me to draw. There's a certain formula to the Spidey stories that um, I try to break when I draw my own stories. And so I'm a comic book artist, which means I'm very story and art related. Yeah, sure. I'm definitely happy to take a commission from someone or to do a live drawing that you guys can watch. But I'd much rather sit down and create my own comics, which means story plus art. I think I'm a pretty solid writer. Maybe I'm not the best writer, but I think what I do is pretty good. Um, I'd say 99% of the people that have read New Zodiacs really like it and they'd like to see more. That's a great compliment when they say that. I think I had one person come up to me and said they didn't understand some of it. Um, I wouldn't call that person who said that a comic book reader, but at the same time, I take a note that you shouldn't have to be a comic book reader for X number of years in order to get what I'm doing. So I take that kind of critique to heart and try to improve. That same person read Pisces and liked it much better. So I'm on the right track with that person. I forgot that I bought them. Need to send them to you for John Hancock. Spider-Man 2099 that you worked on. Cool. Now that's awesome. For a long time, my stuff was in the dollar bins. You could find just about everything I've done in the dollar bins. Now the Venom stuff, Venom versus Wolverine, Planet of the Symbiotes, I see those on a lot of retailers' walls, like it's a wall book. Probably because of the Venom movie, I'm guessing. But once in a while, I definitely see the Valiant stuff I did in the dollar bins, so you can find that stuff on the regular. I once had a retailer. Um, took it as a show of goodwill. He gave me like a handful of some of the Valiant comics that I drew, and I'm like, I know he meant well by it, but I was like, what do you want me to do with these? I don't know. It was so long ago that I did these, and they're essentially dollar or quarter bin books. I mean, I don't have a purpose for them. I'm here to promote my creator-owned stuff, um, or the stuff that you know is more popular, like say Spider-Man or Venom. So I took the issues from him, and I was like, okay, thank you very much, and kind of scratched my head, but it was long before Whatnot. So now what? Now I'll break those comics out on Whatnot and sell them for like $1 or $2 here, just so you guys can have something. Some of you big spenders, VIPs like Ange, I try to give everybody a freebie some kind of little extra something when you buy something from me here on Whatnot. But people, VIPs like Ramona or Ainge, sometimes I'll just send them comics that I worked on. I'll just throw them in the box with the rest of the stuff. Just ask Ainge. He's our moderator today. He'll tell you. I personally don't know much about comics at all. I'm a Toxic Avenger fan, so I've collected the comics with him. So we have a weird coincidence. We have a Toxic Avenger right here in the bin that I colored. It's a Virgin variant. Rodney Ramos did the pencils and inks, and I colored it. But well, I encourage you to explore comics. They're great. It's my favorite art form, better than movies, better than literature, prose. I personally learned how to read through comics, looking at pictures, and so I have a deep connection with comics, with the art form. There's so much you can do, and people like you, McGregor, you inspire me to do my videos where I'm calling it 5 Fire Features. I'm gonna take one of my favorite comics and shoot a video and pick out the 5 most favorite comic book type features that I like about each book. And so each episode will be about a single book, and I'm going to find the 5 things about each book that I like the best. I've been talking about this for a year, and I'm going to get there. I'm going to do it for just for people like yourself, to inspire them, or hopefully inspire them, to people like yourself to read more comics. Especially nowadays, there's this pretty wide range of subject matter out there. There's biographical comics, there's science comics. I recently read one on bats, which was 100% enlightening. A comic graphic novel about bats. And I just read, just not even a month ago, I read a graphic novel about salamanders. Just like science based comics. And so this is great shit. I also created my own comics, which kind of satisfy my love for astronomy and astrology and the mythology behind astrology. It's called the New Zodiacs. New Zodiacs is kind of like my Marvel Universe, 12 characters who can channel the cosmic energies of the zodiac. And so each character, their powers manifest in different ways. So there's one character who I talked about earlier, the Liberator. The Liberator is the Robin Hood of cyberspace. He's a teenage hacker who steals from the info rich, gives to the info poor. I'm also the one of the goals of the new zodiacs is to kind of create a new group of symbols, because the original zodiac appeared somewhere around 3 to 10,000 years ago, right? So people looked up at the stars and they saw in the stars pictures that reflected their personal experiences, right? So you go back in time to ancient Babylonia, And people are walking around with rams. People are practicing archery. People see bulls and goats on the regular. I mean, that's their lifestyle. So naturally, it makes sense, only common sense, that when they looked up into the sky and saw stars and connected the stars like dots and made pictures, they were pictures of things they had personal experience with. So, not many of us have personal experience with bulls and goats and archery nowadays, but we do know about computers. We do wonder what happens when we die. We do. I'm trying to think of the other characters. We do have interest in exploring space. Um, I'm trying to think of the characters who are on deck. Uh, we do have a collective unconscious, what Carl Jung called a collective unconscious, which is like a shared experience from which all humanity taps into and relates to and contributes to. And stuff like that. So my plan is to reinvent the zodiac for a modern era. Oof, there's a lot to keep tabs on here. Let's see. I'll start drawing some webs, I think. Can you guys make that out? Anybody interested in buying this? I can run an auction. You can always wait till it's finished. But if you buy it now, it's guaranteed, and I'll finish it here on the stream. It's been pretty quiet. I think it's hopefully it's because of the summer, huh? We haven't had a lot of high traffic streams in the last month or so. So I think I might kick off early today. Searching for that Ahoy Toxic Avenger variant is why I found you. LOL. Thanks for coming in. Let me show you the. I don't know what an Ahoy Toxic Avenger is, but is this the Ahoy Toxic Avenger? Maybe it says Ahoy on the back. I haven't read this one yet either. Oh, look at that art. That's cool. Nice. Ahoy. There it is. So yes, here it is with with the trade dress and without trade dress. Signed by Rod. I can sign it as well. Got tagged into your show. Not sure why. Maybe X-Files comics? I love X-Files, but I didn't work on X-Files comics. I can draw X-Files characters for you. Rodney's in the house. Of course, ever heard of aphantasia? My mind's eye is blind. So as I read, I don't see a story in my mind like some do. Comics have been a good way to read more. LOL. I've never heard of that. I I'm fascinated by your brain, Stone McGregor, because all I see in my brain are pictures and stories and ideas flying by at like rocket speed, and then music on top of that. I hear music in my head all the time. So I'm kind of envious of your brain. It must be very still. I've never heard the term aphanasia though. It's very interesting. I close my eyes and it's the back of my eyelids. LOL. I'm fascinated by that. I would like to experience that myself. I'm a little jealous, but thank you for sharing. I wonder if my wife is like that too, if she has that, because her mind is like a still pool. I always compare it to like a mountain lake, you know, never seen civilization. It's just this still pool at the top of a mountain. And I think her brain is like this kind of, I don't know if Buddhist state is the right phrase or whatever, but I'm like, as soon as I get up, it's like I got a herd of cats climbing around inside my head. One of the reasons why I thought of the zodiacs was I've got some pretty hardcore creative ADD, and I come up with a lot of ideas on the regular. And so I'll lose track of, or I'll lose interest in a lot of the things that I'm working on at the moment. So I thought, maybe if I could juggle 12 characters, maybe one of those 12 characters or maybe one of the stories will pop and I'll just focus on that and get that done. And then I can move on to another character. And I'm not sure that's working out for me. But definitely admire your euthanasia. I'm fascinated by it. I have a friend who writes, and he describes writing as watching a movie in his head, and he writes what he watches. Blew my mind. Yeah, similar. I can relate to that a little easier. A lot of times when I'm writing story for comics, I'm basically doing what your friend does. I'm basically dictating the pictures, the images that I see in my head. It's a form of dictation. And conversely, I'll show you. Hold on. Let me grab something. Conversely, when I'm drawing, um, once the page is laid out and each shot is kind of broken down, my brain is basically done with the page, but I still have to pencil it, I still have to ink it, and then eventually I still have to color it. But while I'm inking slash penciling slash finishing the page, my brain is writing the dialogue. So, while I'm inking this, my brain is filling in the characters, imagining what they would say in this shot, the best way to tell the story through words. And so here's me writing dialogue for this particular story. Here again. Let's see. Oh, this is dialogue. So for me, the story and the art, it's really, really intertwined. I use the phrase the corpus callosum. I don't know if you guys know what that is, but I think it's a section of the brain. It's like a wall of cartilage that separates the left and right hemispheres of the brain. I have read people who speculate that back in the old days, i.e., ancient Rome, that the corpus callosum was less developed, was more porous, and so when people used uh, when people would write about certain accounts, historical accounts, they would use mythological images. They would say, "Oh, Zeus came down and parted the river," or whatever. Zeus, they would be more. The accountings would be more fantastical and less subjective. Or is it objective? It's objective. They would be less objective and more colorful and imaginative as they were writing these historical accounts. So I have read people who guess that that wall of cartilage between the left and right hemispheres of the brain was more porous, and so they were interchanging uh, imagination with history. Um, I use that analogy for me with story and art. So, in other words, while I'm drawing, I'm writing. While I'm writing, I'm drawing. If that makes any sense at all, I don't know. But here is dialogue for this panel. And then it's, again, I think it saves time for me to just letter the book myself because I can write, I can start editing and shaping the word balloon while I can refine the text while I'm lettering, if that makes sense. Like if a balloon takes up a little bit too much space, a little more than I had anticipated, I can refine as I letter. So it'd be much longer a process, I think, if I wrote all of this dialogue out on in a document or wrote it on a pad or something and then handed it to a letterer. I think it would be just a longer process. But that means now I got to letter the book, so I got my hands in every part of every phase of this book, and sometimes it's boring for me. Plenty of dialogue here, and again, I don't use it. A lot of this stuff is like I would call maybe a sketch dialogue. Some of it's 100% there, but some of it is like a sketch ideas, like talk about this in this panel, and then I'll kind of refine as I go along. Here's the dialogue for this page. This is art for the New Zodiac's Pisces book, which just came out in stores in February, but we've had it here on Whatnot since October. Working on Sagittarius now. There we go. Inside all that splatter is me writing dialogue. So I like this process. It's kind of fun. Wish I could do it faster. Ideally, I think the best thing for me to do would be to write and pencil a book and then have someone else ink it, have someone else letter it, have someone else color it. But that costs money. Um, Money I don't have. But hopefully someday we'll be able to do it. I would love to like break out a Kickstarter and just raise money to pay all of these extra creators. I think that would be a blast. But my experience is that for me, the Kickstarter, I don't have enough of an audience to pay for any extra labor, any labor at all, actually. Um, I can manage to drum up the printing costs and stuff like that on Kickstarter. Grateful for that because it's also money I don't have a lot of. So yeah, I didn't realize we were going to get into brain functions today. That's so cool. I always assumed when people say I can picture that, it was more of a figure of speech. I think the lack of mind visuals makes drawing a little more difficult for me, which is why I'm very interested in watching you and others. Creating art is one thing, but creating a story to go with it is nearly impossible for me to imagine doing. Yeah, have you ever started with like just basically copying another drawing? I'm curious now. So, like, say for instance, you have well, you're toxic. Somebody's a toxic fan. You set this drawing aside, put a piece of paper here, and try to duplicate it. Have you ever done that? And if so, how'd it go? How did the drawing come out? I can copy things, maybe not perfectly, lol, but okay. I would love to see that too. I know you're probably, I don't mean to sound stalky, but I'd be curious to see. I'm interested in your brain and to see how well you copy drawings. I find that interesting as well. You know that there's such a thing as art therapy. Like, it's certainly true for me, but I think that there are a lot of people who can communicate their experience, whether it's trauma or memories or whatever, better by drawing them than by expressing them. And so there's such a thing as art therapy. And I wonder how that would work for you, because if you're drawing from your feelings and not from a picture in your mind, I wonder if that how that works. Fascinated by all this stuff. We'll make a character in New Zodiacs who has aphasia. The thing that blew my mind was listening to you describe how you were going to draw spinning webs. LOL. I'm like, yeah, but how? When it comes to drawing, I would say it's not that I can't draw at all, but to create something out of nothing is where I struggle. Yes, and we all do. I can draw the house I grew up in because I just know it. I don't see it though. Oh, that's interesting. Um, I mean, we all have days when we can't see. Um, what do you call that? Writer's block. Well, we all have writer's block, creator's block, and that's just something that practice. You got to practice your way through it. I'm still not good at it. The Pisces book took way too long because I wasn't quite getting the work done, A, on time, and B, the work that I was doing I didn't really like. So I found myself redoing it. thing about the webbing is that the thing that's fun about webbing is you really can't get anything wrong. There's like an overall design that I try to shoot for when we're doing a piece like this. Like, you know, I had a hoop shape over here, and so my brain is like, we need another hoop to balance that off. This kind of swirl shape. But once you get the basic design down and you know where the webs are going, drawing webs is kind of fun. You can't get them wrong. It's just multiple strands, you know, weaving around each other. And you can draw them any different way you like. You can draw little wraps like this, you know, one strand wraps around another strand. You can draw the intertwining strands like this. And then you go back in and you correct any, you know, see this line overlaps this line. When I drew this one line, I now drew a second line that overlaps that first basic line. You just go in and white it out. Or if you're using a pencil, you just erase it, and then the webs take shape. And then the more you get into it, the more elaborate the drawings get, the cooler it looks. So if you look at the early Michael Golden webs, they were literally things like this, you know. And then if Toddy did anything to improve it, he gave each a tighter drawing, a thickness. And so I kind of follow the idea of Todd. Well, I'll just draw these. I'll give each strand a thickness, and then the more strands you draw, the cooler it looks. Some some strands are thick, some are thin. I could spend all day doing this. Some of them meet other strands. Like at some point, I'm going to want this one to meet this one, and then this one to meet this one. So it's all one gooey mess. And then once I draw the webs here, or at least get the basics down, I'll start to draw Spidey's body behind them, just so I don't get confused. There's so many lines around right now that I'm getting confused which line goes where. That's a great idea, honestly. That's why I use AI to help me convey my thoughts, visuals. That's a great idea, honestly. I have to say that I don't agree with that statement, but I don't. But whatever works for you, I don't find aphantasia to be a handicap. I just do things a little differently. Like when I was a produce manager, a saying in produce is "I appeal is by appeal." I'd spend so much time rearranging instead of creating an idea in my head. So turning that to drawing, I can't even begin to comprehend how I would go about drawing webs in action. Oh snap, this is badass. It says West Coast VIP. Anyways, all this was to say, wow, I'll let you do your thing as so you can focus on your lines. No worries, I don't have the artistic talent. I disagree with that statement also, Ains. Everyone, if you can smash a glass with a hammer, then you can create a glass with your hands. It's just a matter of putting the work in. Although I don't know much about AI, what I've seen from AI is that it's not, it takes away the creator. It's a renderer. Um, it doesn't create, if that makes any sense. It's a tool in the same way that a brush creates a certain brush stroke, or a pen creates a line like this, or other pens create white lines, or other pens create brushy lines like this. AI is a tool. It's just an advanced brush. So the creator, the creative act, I don't see the creative act in AI stuff. I see the rendering. I see the finished drawing, but I don't see the thinking. And the idea that people don't have artistic talent, I just, I mean, I don't mean to be insulting, but I know that that's not correct. I guarantee if you spent the majority of your life doing anything, you would be good at it. So I spent the majority of my life drawing with a pencil on paper, and then maybe learning how to paint, and then maybe learning storyboard language, and definitely studying comics. So there's more to comics than just knowing how to draw. It's knowing what to draw. It's knowing how one drawing relates to the other drawing. That's the stuff I love. I don't see that in AI. I don't see the brain in AI. Could be wrong because I'm very naive to it. I don't really. I can, granted, it's early in the technology, but I can see AI a mile away. Um, One thing that attracts me to AI is what it gets wrong. And Bob Layton used to say this when we were at Valiant Comics. He said that an artist's style is how they draw wrong, is what they draw wrong. Like, you can tell Todd McFarlane from John Buscema because of what they draw in their way and what they do that's not correct. And I think that is some of the stuff that appeals to me about AI. In the same way that the synthesizer couldn't directly duplicate the sound of a grand piano, it became an instrument in itself, and it created a sound and a style because it didn't sound like a grand piano. It sounded like an electronic device, right? So that's some of the appeal, the attraction I have with AI is I like the six-fingered hands, and I like the half an S on Superman's chest, And those are the telltale giveaways that marked this as a AI. Ains, you sent me six. Let's say you sent me 6 to 10 pictures of your character. Not one of them was consistent with the other. So AI can't even duplicate its own designs. And so those are things that attract me to it. Are the things that it gets wrong. Bill Sienkiewicz did an awesome drawing. It was so simple. It was the middle finger. It said something like FAI, but it had 6 fingers. It had 5 fingers and a thumb, 6 fingers. And I was like, there it is, right there. You know, that is what distinguishes AI. And I think that is a tool that interests me. But that's not you that did that. That's the tool. Well, could it? No, that's the tool that did it. In the same way that a brush draws brushy, you can draw brushy. You can use the brush to create a dry brush effect or a single line effect. Um, you didn't do that. It was the brush. It was the tool that did that. So I don't know if that makes any sense. Art is subjective. Exactly. Art doesn't have to be good. Yeah. There was a guy once who made millions of dollars painting a soup can that already existed. Some people call that art. Do you? This is worthwhile. He did. Same artist did silk screens of photographs of famous celebrities. Is that art? There's another artist who took comic book panels and painted, 30-foot copies of these panels. Is that art? It took John Romita Sr. drawings from a romance comic book and painted it basically the same thing. At least 85% of the image was created by John Romita Sr. This particular artist, in quotations, painted the same image, or 85% of it at least, um, at 15 feet by 15 feet. Is that art? I think AI can be a tool for somebody like me in a way that a pencil, paper are a tool for you. Yes, a tool. I'm artistic with blood and needles. Sure. Sure, you can be artistic. I have to really challenge myself and would take a while for me to master. I have the story in my head, just can't draw it that way. I want it to look. I'll have to really challenge myself and would take a while for me to master. Oh, I read that one. I agree with what you're saying, that you can learn, but you said it yourself, you were creating at 6 years old. Exactly. So be patient with yourself. AI is killing traditional art 100, says West Coast. Stone says, I disagree, West Coast. Ramona says AI won't last, West Coast. Stone McGregor says traditional art will always have its place. I agree with that. And I'm living proof of that. I will always be doing this unless I drop dead. Every artist is influenced by other art, but it's your spin that you put on it that makes it yours. That's your style. So, forgot what I was going to say. Oh, I remember what I was going to say. So we're in a capitalist society. AI creates a tool which is essentially taking samples of other artists' work and allowing other people to create images using that art. Well, we have something like that in music. It's called sampling. And if there's money to be made in sampling, then the original creator of the sample gets a piece of that creation, right? So it should be with AI. So if you're making a dime off of AI because you're sampling another artist's work, in our capitalist society, the model is already there. You need to reimburse the artist who created the image that you're swiping from. Especially, I've heard that in AI, they give you prompts like draw in Alex Ross's style and stuff like that. And so if that's a prompt, do this piece like Alex Ross. If that's a prompt, Alex Ross needs to get a paycheck tomorrow. Was that Vanilla Ice did that do 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 do, right? That swipe from it's a sample from Under Pressure by Queen with David Bowie, right? So okay, so you want to be creative with another person's work. That's cool. You can be inspired by another person's work. That's great. We live in a capitalist society. If you're making money off of that work, you need to reimburse the person that you're sourcing from. It's not an issue. It really isn't. It's not even something that sounds difficult to accept, right? Except when you're the person who doesn't want to pay out. It can't replace painting, etc. What an interesting conversation we're having today. It's my understanding, though, that AI can give the illusion of painting, no? Or do you mean the actual physical piece, the physical piece of art that is a painting. Oh, there are Photoshop functions that duplicate like watercolor and stuff like that. So I'm not sure what that means. No, of course not, says Stone. In the same way cars didn't replace bicycles, AI won't replace art. It will have its own place in society. Like with photos, you already had Photoshop. Ames says, I live vicariously through your pencil to bring my AI generated images to life. Raw pics also can't be replaced. I don't know what a raw pic is. If it makes you feel, it can be art. You'll see the difference. AI will have its own place. That's what I'm saying. LOL. I just got in. Didn't read it all. Sorry. I think if you're questioning art in the same way, somebody saying you're just drawing, not creating a piece of art, it could be wrong. Stick figures are art. All has its own style. Yep. Stick figures art can be art. There was a Kickstarter for a web series called Order of the Stick. If you haven't heard of it, look it up. Blew my mind when I first heard about it. So it's a web comic series. It's kind of D&D fantasy role playing type stories, and they're all stick figures. And the Kickstarter to the creator, ran a Kickstarter so that they could raise the funds to print the book and print the web comic into book form. They made $1 million. I'm not exaggerating. Characters that were all stick figures that told a story in comic book form. The creator made $1 million. Stick figure is not a tool. Stick figure was a choice by the artist to create a story in that style. If the artist could draw like Alex Ross, would the Order of the Stick web comic be better? I don't know. There's I'm of the mind that, artists like, say, McFarlane, he's popular because his style is something that an artist, in the same way that punk rock was popular like in the 70s and 80s, and grunge was big in the 90s, the simplicity of the drawing or the crudeness of the drawing is something that people could more quickly imitate, or their own work looked closer to that artist's work. And so, therefore, that more people were attracted to that style, i.e., punk rock or grunge, or someone like McFarlane who doesn't have half the anatomical or technical skills as someone like Hal Foster or John Buscema or Neil Adams. But more people could draw like Todd McFarlane with less effort. They didn't have to go to school and study anatomy for 20 years. They could draw like Todd McFarlane in a couple hours, and I think that's a lot of what Todd's appeal has been. Was that kind of DIY punk rock vibe, grunge vibe. Anybody could sit with a guitar and find with basic musical knowledge, you could find Smells Like Teen Spirit on your guitar with minimal effort, right? Probably take me an hour to nail that song down, and I don't know how to play guitar. So that doesn't mean it's not art. It just means, certain styles are more popular for different reasons. I like talking about this shit. I wish that I could come up with a story that inspired me to draw with stick figures. Um, I not that I can't draw stick figures. I just can't come up with a reason or a story in which expressing myself with stick figures in that style would successfully tell the stories that I like. I wish I could. I'm going to sit with this drawing. I'm going to be drawing webs for like the next 3 or 4 hours. Wouldn't it be cool if I could do this? You can't see that. You can't see what I'm drawing. Wouldn't it be cool if I could draw this and achieve the same success or the same response than when I'm doing this? The version of Spider-Man that I see in my head isn't a stick figure. I wish it was. I totally get what you're saying, and I agree there should be a cut back. But AI using samples is no different than all the different artists who claim to draw Spider-Man, for instance. You have to be more specific about that. Everybody draws Spider-Man. And Spider-Man is following a design that was created by someone else. So you think every artist should pay the creator of Spider-Man? I'm willing to entertain that idea if that's what you're getting at. There's one original creator. Is he being paid by everybody? That I don't know. I'm just asking a question. Just so it's said, I mean no disrespect. I just see a world where art and AI exist in the same world doing their own thing. The cat's out of the bag. It's going to happen. But AI was supposed to like help people cure cancer and stuff like that. It's not meant to do art. I don't know. Um, I think if AI could do custodial work, to allow people who are custodians to be creative, I think that's a better use for AI. But there's room for everybody. My Celestial Weaver as a stick figure would not be very eye appealing. That's not how you see your character, or that's not how you want to convey that character. So that makes sense. Um, one of the most famous characters in existence, right? By one of the icons of cartooning. I chase this kind of I chase this kind of language. I don't know. My brain doesn't work. I've been working 40 years plus to create this kind of universal language, and still haven't done it yet. I think maybe that's what keeps me going. So I'm looking for that language, the visual language that says, "Hey, this is mine," and that other people understand. Autographs and facsimile autographs. There's a market for both. What? There's a market for facsimile autographs. In other words, an autograph that wasn't signed by the person, someone else is copying the autograph. I'm not sure I understand that. That's interesting. Take a regular story and have it start and stick, slowly opening their mind, learning to see in their mind's eye as the comic turns normal. That's a cool idea. That's a very cool idea. Whose is this? Says West Coast. It could be yours, not for sale. It's for sale. My comment on Spider Man was in response to you talking about AI sampling being wrong in a sense. This has been a fun way to kill time while my son naps. Baseball cards have fake autos all the time. People create decoration pieces on eBay using facsimile autos. Now we're on to something that I've never heard of before. So people know that the autograph is a facsimile, not the actual person, and they're cool with it and they buy it. Do I understand that right? And then they do stuff with it. Rolo, you want to buy this? I'll put it up for auction if you like, and then I'll finish it. Or you can wait. No worries. Wait till it's done. 'Cause I might draw a big, long, big, tiny dong on Spider Man at the end, and then you won't want it. You'll be like, ah, dude. Or what did we do last time with your piece? Ange, troublemaking Ange and instigator Ramona messing with Rolo's piece. That was an experiment that didn't quite work out. But I'm not sure if McGregor meant this, but should the creators of Spider Man get a piece of every drawing of Spider Man done by any artist other than the creator? I'm not sure you meant to go there, but I'm going there, and I don't have a problem with that. It's impossible to enforce, but if we could start to introduce the psychology of that into the world, I think that's interesting. I agree it's dumb, it's not for me, but that's exactly how it is. I mean on baseball cards like the ones with the auto printed, like Topps Heritage. Oh. Some people collect those. LOL. I'll wait. Okay. I regret that, Ames says. Stand by. I'll create the auction. Stand by, and then we'll talk some more. Hold on. Oh. Single figure. Whatnot. 150. Confirm. Ultimate Spidey. Start auction. 30 seconds. Bling. I'll just keep working on this. Whoever buys it, if it's Rolo, cool. I'll just keep working on it till it's done, or until I have to leave. This could be a long one. I'm not sure. Once I get the webbing all locked down, this could turn out very easy. I'm not sure. I use that as an example when you said AI should reimburse artists. They use their style, not trying to be rude, just playing devil's advocate. No, I don't perceive any rudeness or disrespect. Um, so far, you're talking about stuff that I'm thought of and am interested in myself. I'm not sure if this is related. No, it's not related. I'm not going to talk about it. Yeah, so at one point there was an autograph that was duplicated and placed on a sports trading card. And so it's technically, no, it's not an autograph card, but it has the person's autograph on it. It's just mass produced. Yeah, to me, that's the equivalent of, like a comic book, like um, 20 comic book pages that were reprinted and then published. That to me, that's something people are fully aware that, or most people are fully aware that the the autograph or the drawing is not original. It's mass produced. But maybe some people may think that autograph cards actually are autographed. Well, there are actual cards that are autographed too, so that can get confusing. Okay, I'm going to say this. I'm not sure it's directly related to what we're talking about. I'm going to say this, but I know that there were a lot of trading cards that have pieces of, say, uniform or pieces of an athlete's bat. This is in baseball, right? Pieces of a bat, and they're like mounted on or in the cards or something like that, right? And then so there's a very famous. Hold on. there's a very famous baseball player who submitted bats um, to certain card company to be dismantled or broken up into pieces, and some of the bats had cork, a cork center, which I guess is illegal. I don't know too much about that, but that whoever was representing this athlete, I doubt it was the athlete himself who submitted the bats, but um, someone in the athlete's camp submitted bats to be attached to these cards, and the bats had a cork center, which is, I guess that's illegal, right? I'm not sure how that relates, but it was just stuck in my head. I just had to get it out. So I guess that's, I'm not sure now that I've said it how it has to do with anything. Anybody in my YouTube stream? Nope. What good was it not playing music? To me, just as gray of an area as artists using Spider-Man, even if in their own style. That's forgery because it was done to deceive. As wrong as that seems, the gray area it with a little saying on the back talking about not from a specific player, place, or event. Yes, it's illegal. Using a cork center is illegal, but technically, if it came from that bat that specific player owned, gray area, LOL. The person who received the bat, the card company, they just returned the bats. So I guess they want to keep that. They want to help maintain that athlete's mystique as a prominent player, I guess. It'd be funny if they sliced and diced the bat and attached it to a card, and it's like people were like, "This is cork. This is a piece of cork." Um, and I, th- I, I think I'm going to. I think I'm going to just quantify that cork story as a digression from the main discussion, because I can't think of what it has to do with swiping people's work. It's just fraud. Here's a slightly related topic. I have heard this story. I don't know if it's actually happened to me. I haven't seen it happen to me, but there are some people who take other artists' images and they make prints of them and then sell them at conventions, saying it's their own work. Is that different than AI generated image based on another artist's work, where you can clearly identify the source of the original piece? again, playing devil's advocate, I don't know what the right answer is. I do know that I don't think it's cool for an a person to duplicate another artist's piece and then sell it at a show as a print with their own name on it. I hope that was clear. The artist A does a drawing, like say this, uh, artist in question in quotations B takes my image, prints it, prints 100 prints of it, and sells it at a convention or with their name signed on it. Is that kosher? For me, it's not. What if they change the print from, say, red and blue Spider Man to yellow and purple Spider Man? But it's the same image. Also, I'm buying me a toxic comic, LOL. Okay. Do you want me to sign it for you? Thank you. Selling images of other people's work is morally wrong, 100%. I'm not sure if it's legally wrong. And so could we go from there and say an AI generated image that's identical to a previous artist's work, is that morally wrong? Again, I mostly agree with what you're saying, but duplicates and replicas go against what you're saying, but they fully exist and are accepted. Please sign it, sir. I'd be happy to have it that way. Again, there's there's moral and there's capitalism. I don't know where Rodney got this color from, but this is the closest I have. And again, I don't have the answers either. We're just having a discussion. I'm not judging anybody. Well, I'm kind of judging some people, but I'm not judging anybody having the discussion today. I'm just having the discussion, trying to solve problems just like everybody else. Set that aside to dry and I'll put it in the bag. Back to Spidey. I think what's going to happen here is this is going to go to black. It starts with a discussion, and here we are. Haha. Yeah, totally. So, very fascinating. And it's not AI that started it either. Like I said, I was talking about Warhol. Andy Warhol did a painting of a soup can with, say, all the different flavors. Campbell's soup. Now, Campbell's soup had a corporation, had a designer who came up with the design for the soup can, right? That red, the red, from here down, it was red, and from the bottom half was white, and it had the logo here, and it had the lettering style there. That is a creation. That is someone sitting down and, as simple as it is, created a label to represent a product in a specific manner, so that if you saw this design anywhere, you would know that that was a Campbell soup can. So here comes another artist who basically just paints a large version of a soup can. The soup can is about this big. I know I've been in a room with a bunch of them. I know that they're larger than soup cans. I want to say the soup can itself is probably about this big. I mean, you can't see, but maybe somewhere around 11 by 17. Um, are those, is that art? I don't know. Should the designer of the original soup can get a piece of every sale? One of the appeals, that's another thing, one of the appeals of the virtual crypto world was that um, artists were supposed to get a piece of every time every time the piece was sold to someone else. Now, as an artist myself, I like that idea because, especially in comics, there are pages that I've sold for like $20 that are now on eBay for 200. Or, on a bigger scale, Mike Zeck probably sold a drawing of the very first appearance of Spider-Man in his black costume. He probably sold that for a couple $100, maybe a grand tops. And someone bought it for 3 million, right? In crypto, but that's not my point. Wouldn't it be cool if artists got to share in the mutual profit of their own creations? I'm not saying yes or no. I personally think yes. Um, but I realize we're not in my world. If we were, things would be a lot different. But I like to introduce these ideas for the future generations that artists need to have the same respect as corporate CEOs get in the media, and so do teachers. And they should be properly compensated for their contributions. I'm sure there are CEOs who love the idea of forming a company and hiring the right staff. I'm sure there are CEOs who would do that for nothing. because they just enjoy the process, putting the right people together under the right conditions to create the right product. I'm sure there are artists, I'm sure there are CEOs who would do that for nothing if they could, but they don't do it for nothing. And neither should artists, even though we love what we do. That doesn't mean, even though healthcare workers and teachers love what they do, doesn't mean you take advantage of them. Devil's advocate. Everything is created. If we wanted to keep on going, we'd owe money just for existing. That may be. That may be so. Is that the end stage of capitalism, or no? It's not the end stage of capitalism. End stage capitalism is one guy owns everything. But is that a version of end stage capitalism with appreciation attached to it? If the artist owns the soup company owns the label company, and the can company, label company owes printing, so on and so forth. Printing is not creation. So there's only one creator in your formula. I feel like I'm growing a couple new brain cells talking about all this. Just a couple, though. Welcome in, everyone. Here comes Ange. Our moderator is in the house. Ange doing his duty. Thank you, Ains. Check out the bin. Get a sketch like this one. Any character. He has many blanks. I do. I have 3 short boxes of blanks. One, two. I have 4 short boxes full of blanks. It's crazy. Here's a couple that are already done. If you want, you can buy them here, or you can buy them at the Mid Main Comics and Toy Show, where I'll be on Saturday from 9 to 5. Saturday only. It's a 2-day show, but I'm only here on Saturday. $50 off here at Whatnot. A lovely Spider-Man sketch. These are all one-of-a-kind originals. Batman, Hush, Jam Piece, Starter Upper. Get some of your other favorite artists or AIs to fill in those spaces. Here's a Daredevil. I don't draw Daredevil a lot. I like him. Daredevil's a badass. Doctor Doom, single figure here on the stream is $150. So you get $50 off. Doctor Doom, this is a head / torso. Only $100 here on the stream. If you're interested. Anybody seen the FF movie yet? Here's a Jam Piece starter upper for Spider-Man. Get some of your favorite artists or me to fill in the spaces. Even this one, there's room for Ant-Man or something in there. X-Men, Cyclops, X-Men, Rogue, and Gambit. Any Gambit fans out there? I was never the biggest Gambit fan. Sorry. Wolverine, I am a huge Wolverine fan. He's probably a top 5 favorite character. Although he goes down, the more we learn about Wolverine, the less I like him. Also, we have these are cool. These just came in. Joe St. Pierre sketchbooks, over 100 sketches, most of them done right here. Let me pull the camera back a little bit. Most of them done right here on the stream in the last year. is a print of this one. I liked it so much. I liked so much how it came out. I tightened it up a little bit and gave it to my friend Dash Martin, who colored it. There, this is the penciled version of the Planet of the Symbiotes cover that you can find in the bin. Spider-Woman pencils. Deadpool 1036. I am the creator of Deadpool from Earth 1036. I bet you didn't know that. And the Marvel Mutants from 1036 as well. I did a piece for Marvel Comics. It was featured in a book called X-Men Millennium Visions, #1. There's some web scenarios. This is cool web action. That's regular Deadpool. Here's Spider-Man with my favorite character that I created today. It's a tie for my favorite character I created. That's the Liberator. I love Cricket as well. She's awesome. And I love my Sagittarius character. So yeah, there's like 100 drawings in here. $30. And I usually charge for the remark. But I'm just running auctions for $30. If you're interested, let me know. Let's do one now, shall we? I'm pretty sure I already logged this in. Sketchbook variant with remark. No, that's the variant. This is the one we want. Here, let's do this one for 30 seconds. This is for number 28 out of 100. Auction is live. Grab yourself a sketchbook with an original one-of-a-kind Spidey drawing. He's my favorite non-creator owned character to draw. I admit it. These are also characters that I created. They're called the Dregs, Urban Scavenger Gang. They appear in New Zodiac's Pisces. Any Spawn fans? This is number 29 out of 100. Little Spawn remark in black and white. Yeah, so the Dregs are badass. I love them. I love them so much. I made a t-shirt out of this figure right here. Go to tpublic.com and you'll find my t-shirts there under Astronaut Ink. Astronaut like the spaceman, ink like the drawing liquid. Back to Spidey. Don't forget to follow me here on Whatnot and also here on Instagram and here on YouTube. I promise I'll start making videos at some point. I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. They'll be called 5 Fire Features, and I'm going to break out some of my favorite comics. And I'm going to talk about 5 things about that comic that I love and what makes it a great comic book. Where was I? Oh, got to finish drawing these webs. Talking plus drawing equals slow Joe. No talking plus drawing equals Joe's in the zone. Look out. Cool stuff will be happening before your eyes. But we're having a cool discussion today. I've never been in a stream that was talking about this. Share the stream so we can play and give prizes today. I just think it opens a can of worms if we start asking who all needs to be paid for their part in the creation of something. Well, it depends on whose can of worms it is. I like the can of worms because I benefit from it. But you know, how do we iron out the details? That's the can of worms for sure. I'm going tomorrow to watch FF. Cool. Let us know how it is. Me too. You guys should go together virtually. Rolo's on the West Coast. Angel's on the East Coast. You guys should Zoom each other while the movie is on. While you're watching the movie, it'd be like a Zoom date, and then you both report back to me. Let me know how it is. I almost went to see Superman the other day. I was supposed to get together with a friend, but he's kind of a flake. And then I actually looked because I'm seriously interested in seeing the Superman movie. And I guess it was $23 to see a movie now. Is that true? I haven't been to a movie since before COVID, but just a regular movie is $23. Does that sound right? Genuinely, thanks for the unexpected conversation. Yes, this was fun. I love talking about this stuff. Describe the feeling when you get your first job. Did you spend that first check? Hell yeah. I didn't have any money when I got my first. You mean the first comic book job, I'm guessing, right, Ange? I didn't have any money when I had my first comic job, and I was up to my gonads in student loans and credit card debt because I was struggling, and even as a full on comic book artist, I was still a struggling artist. The thing that separated actually being a pro from the other times when I was working full time, not as a comic book artist, was that I was getting paid for jobs like, say, waiting. I was a bar back. I was also a salesperson at Macy's and Herald Square, New York City. I did kind of stuff like that to kind of pay the bills, but those jobs don't pay so well, especially when you're spending the other half of your time going to college. So I struggled for a long time financially until once you get the comic book job, um, then 100% of your energy can go towards becoming a great artist. Whereas before it was work, work as a salesperson or do menial work. I also did landscaping one summer. Um, um, Instead of having your time divided by the job that pays the bills, now the job that pays the bills is the same one that you want, and it's the artistic creative job. So I just happened to join the industry at a time when there was a boom. I got very lucky. I've since learned that I got so lucky that the only time the comic book industry was that hot was when comics were first being created in the 30s and early 40s. So they were literally taking kids off the street in the 30s because comics were so popular with kids that their demand was so high that they were literally taking kids off the street and teaching them how to, I don't know, fill inkwells or clean inkwells or eventually learn how to draw comics and work on comic books. So the early 90s were comparable to that boom. And so I think I got work quickly because people were, publishers were looking for creators. And so I got lucky enough that I hooked up with Valiant Comics and during a boom time, because the boom time meant that comics were selling extremely well and comics were generating royalties. And so I do remember I would come home every day after work, and my answering machine, we had answering machines at the time. Remember those? Voicemail machines. It was full with credit card companies, threatening me, and um, the state, New York State, saying that my loans were in default and this is this, you got to send a payment now, or phone bill is overdue, etc. Credit card bill is overdue. I would just come home and my answering machine would be full of these threats slash reminders that I didn't have any money. And so, long story short, I got a gig at Valiant where I was writing and drawing my own book. It's called Secret Weapons. And Secret Weapons came out at a time, it wasn't quite the boom. Like if the height of the boom is here, and then the comic book industry crashed again, I caught the wave right around here. So you can still get a good surf off of a wave that's this high, right? So I'm writing and drawing Secret Weapons at this time, um, struggling to pay my bills, lucking into a piece of comic book history at a time when the boom is so huge. And so Secret Weapons #1 was it sold 600,000 copies. And it was #9 that month in the Diamond bestseller chart. So imagine what #8, #7, #6, #5, etc. Imagine what they were selling if #9 is selling 600,000 copies. So I'm writing and penciling a comic book that sells 600,000 copies. I got a nice I got a nice royalty check about 3 months later, and then one day I called all of those people who were threatening me, and my loans were going into default and all that kind of stuff. And I called each one and I said, "How much do I owe you?" And I cut a check that day for every one of them with my first royalty check from Secret Weapons #1. It was debt free for a while. It was very nice. It's a nice feeling to be debt free. Um, Not many people make that kind of money in comics anymore. Like I said, it was a wave, a speculator boom. There were a lot of people, retailers and fans, who were speculating on the value of their comics. They were investing in them in the same way that people would buy junk bonds in the 80s. They were anticipating their value to explode. And so a lot of people would buy cases of certain comics because they thought those comics would be valuable in 10 to 20 years, right? So they could retire. So when there's that many people speculating, that means that there's more supply than demand, right? There weren't that many people reading them as there were buying them. And so, of course, one day these speculators pulled out of the industry, and the entire sales on every single comic book crashed. Good times. That's when there were a lot of evil people like Ron Perlman, who was, I think his name is Ron. Ron Perlman is something Perlman. He's a cosmetics mogul who bought Marvel Comics and then over leveraged it, sunk it into the ground, so that Marvel Comics almost went bankrupt in the later 90s. And that almost destroyed the comic book industry as we know it. So my first royalty check, it was a complete fluke. I happened to have the right job at the right time, uh, supported by the right people at the right company. Um, and that was a good year, to say the least. Once I went over, I'm thinking, holy cow, if I can do these kind of numbers at Valiant, wait till I get to Marvel. This will be fantastic. And so I'm not I'm not aware. All this stuff is retrospect. Now that I've read the history and talked to several people about this kind of stuff. Me, I'm just a kid, really. I'm just riding the wave, and I'm thinking by the time I'm drawing Spider-Man, I'm doing 600,000 here at Valiant. Wait till I start drawing Spider-Man. So I'm drawing Spider-Man right around this time, and so the wave is done. The wave has crashed. The wave isn't even a wave anymore. What is it? It's a riptide. It's just sucking. It's a whirlpool, just sucking money out of it, right? So I'm working on Spider-Man right around here. I had no idea that I had seen, the sales peak of my career, and it would never get better after that. I just thought once you hit Marvel, it's all gravy, right? But it was not meant to be. I know that I must have gotten royalty checks from Marvel because I still get royalty checks from Marvel, but I don't remember getting royalty checks in the 90s. But I must have. They just weren't noteworthy like the Secret Weapons royalty checks were. Is that the check you were talking about, Age? LOL answering machine. Right place, right time. It really was. It's all timing. And then, of course, I was lucky enough to have the skills or to be working with people who were patient enough to let me develop the skills. Um, I know that Bart Sears caught the top. He was working on a book for Valiant called Turok, son of, what was it, Turok Dinosaur Hunter, I think it was called. And Turok sold 1 million copies. So Bart Sears, he's not Joe St. Pierre, you know, fresh off the boat, so to speak, budding amateur. Bart Sears is, an A-lister in the industry. So, but Bart Sears on Turok Dinosaur Hunter sells 1 million copies. I'm sure his royalty check was uh, much more favorable than mine. And so Bart just disappears. He does number one and he does like 4 or 5 pages of number two and then disappears. And I'm like, yeah, but Bart, if you did that number two, you know, if you did that number two, maybe you would have caught this part of the wave like I did. You know what I mean? But I thought that was very interesting. was like, Bart, why did you disappear? I was curious. It could have been, another sizable check. But maybe Bart doesn't need all that money. He just was like, all right, I'll take this and go home. Leave the table. And there's something to be said for that too, right? All I need is this much money. And then there you go. So I remember Bernard Chang was working on Turok #2, and I remember he was staying overnight. I mean, the deadline was blasted. Bart had sat on the pages for so long, and then finally it came time. Okay, Bart, you're not working on Turok anymore. So I remember seeing Bernard, who took the gig and kind of practically overnight finished Turok #2. I remember him sleeping at the studio. So I'm not sure exactly how much time he had to work on it, but I do know it wasn't a lot of time. And I remember being envious of his speed, his ability to do that kind of work that fast. And that's that. It was a good time for comic book artists. Like I said, there wasn't a comparable period of history except the very beginning of the comic book boom in the 30s, which I find very fascinating. That's where you get McFarlane on Spawn, and Liefeld is doing Youngblood, and Jim Lee is doing Wildcats and all the stuff he was doing. Yeah, it was a boom period. The Spider-Man was the Clone Saga. So Venom gets his own comic book. So, this is a boom period. People are going bananas for these characters. And they're thinking they'll be worth thousands of dollars. I see a lot of those comics here on Whatnot in the dollar starts. And maybe some of them will go for like $4 or $8, depends on the book. But it's like, okay, most of them are dollar start books because there's so many of them. There's literally millions of a lot of those. Like I said, Secret Weapons, which was a book by a nobody like me, is selling 600,000. What do you think Spawn is selling by McFarlane, or what do you think of? You think X-Men is selling with the Kubert brothers drawing it? Now the image is in full swing. Probably 1 million, right? It's crazy times. Wow, man, I'd like to hear your story. Much respect to you for fighting. That's a great compliment. Thank you. The kicker is that I can't do much else, so it's a little bit easier to fight. I wish I was. I wish I could be as focused uh, as I was then. Now I was really on a mission. I said, "How much do I owe you?" LOL. Probably in the same chill voice. Yeah, right. Right job, right time, but don't discredit that. Without your talents, you wouldn't have gotten there to begin with. It's a fine mixture. Yes, wanted to hear that story. I thought so. Ames says, thanks for sharing that story. That's the one I thought you were talking about. I wasn't sure if I had told that here. I must have. Probably a couple times, right? Yeah, that's the other thing that I think about a lot is, if there wasn't a boom period, I might have been another couple of years before I got a gig. If I was 10 years earlier, or even 2 years later, yeah, it's weird. One of the cool things that I miss is that Valiant had an aggressive and talented marketing team. And so a lot of, the sales from Secret Weapons come because Valiant itself was on the rise. These kind of indie comics it was the first Image comics, right? Because these were all creators: Bob Layton, Jim Shooter, Barry Windsor Smith, even Don Perlin, who I wouldn't call a fan favorite, but Don Perlin was a staple at Marvel Comics. They all left Marvel to start their own company. Well, Jim was fired a few years before that, but the other artists basically decided to throw in their efforts to creating a new company. So it's a lot like what Image did, except that these were the older, more seasoned creators, right? Jim Shooter was not 19 years old when he created Valiant. Bob wasn't 19 years old. Don sure as hell wasn't 19 years old. Barry Windsor Smith brought Conan in to Marvel Comics and popular comic book culture in 1970. So Barry was young in 1970, but he's 20 years older. So he didn't have these guys. I guess they didn't have the teenage pop culture kind of cachet that the Image guys did. But essentially, it's the same business model. It's a bunch of creators going out on their own, um, making their own stuff, starting new universes, right? And so I just happen to see the Valiant comics on the shelf, and I'm a comics fan, so I'm loving what Valiant is doing at the time. And I know who Bob Layton is. I know who Barry Windsor Smith is. I know who Jim Shooter is, and I love all their work. So sent my samples in to Valiant Comics. It's basically the East Coast Image Comics. Image was all on the West Coast. I think they're all on the West Coast. Yeah, I think Todd might have been in Washington State at the time, but that's West Coast too. But most of them are in California, Southern California area. So it was like West Coast Image, even though I didn't think of it that way at the time. And so now I appreciate the marketing team that Valiant had a lot better, because now I have to do my own marketing and eats up a lot of my time. Back then, I just sat down and created, right? See, I had a deadline that I did my best to hit. It was all creating, it was all writing and penciling, some inking. Um, Whereas now, when I have my own company, I have to do the marketing and the creation and the production, preparing files for printers and finding a printer and getting the best deal from a printer. And that's all on me now. That eats up a shit ton of my time. Shit ton. That's a technical term, right? I spent 2 days last week um, sending out promotional mailers for retailers. If you know any retailers, have them check out my website. I have a, what do you call this, QR code and everything. You go to this, scan this QR code, and you go to my website store, and I have special retailer offers. If you order 5 copies of these books, you get a retailer discount. It's made for retailers to carry my books in the store. So it took me a while to come up with this, to get the postcards printed, to get the envelopes, to send the I sent comp copies of New Zodiac's Pisces with each one, so that's going to cost me some money. But I want them to read the book. I want them to see that this is good shit, better shit than the 90s during this wave. It's New Zodiacs is better than all of this shit from the 90s, from that wave. And I want people to know about it. So I sent a whole bunch of comp copies to a bunch of retailers last week. That takes time. Whereas when I was at Valiant, other people were doing that shit. It's tough. I've tried to find interns over the years or assistants that I would even pay to do this kind of stuff. And it's very difficult. I had never heard it. I was expecting a story like The Pursuit of Happiness. It was, in a way. Take care. I look forward to getting my comic. Thank you for coming by, Stone. Appreciate it very much. If you're still here. So, Ainge, you had never heard that story, the Valiant royalty check story? I would have. I thought that's what you were asking about. I know I'm gonna have to sign off pretty soon because I'm starving. I haven't really eaten today. I can feel my sugar dropping. But maybe I'll finish this today and bring it to the show. Or maybe I'll finish it next week. I'm not sure. See how I feel. I gotta eat something. But anybody have any other quick questions? This was the silent episode. Not so silent because I'm yammering for 3 hours. Not so silent. Gotta keep this simple so the webs pop. Otherwise, I'm gonna have to color this. But even if I color it, I still want it to work in black and white. So I'm just gonna get in there. Always remember to eat, ladies and gentlemen. Eating is good. That's my word of wisdom for you all today. Take care. No, I'm glad I asked. Loved it though. Your stories and conversations are classic. I go. I go. Yeah, I'm so hungry. I feel like it's distracting me from concentrating. I'm going to sign off. Ange, thank you for being moderator. If you want, you can moderate anytime you like. Just let me know. You can co host, whatever you want to do. Um, I appreciate your time very much. Let's see. So, yeah, I'm going to probably sign off pretty soon. So I got the shakes. Shakes aren't great. My pleasure. Thank you. Cool. Yeah, so I'm gonna blow out just to grab something to eat. Not sure what'll happen with this guy, but see how I feel. I'm also jonesing to jump on some Sagittarius stuff, so I haven't figured out what I'm gonna do after lunch. But I hope you guys have a great weekend. Ange, you're the best. Thank you once again. Appreciate it. Anybody on the YouTube stream? Nobody on the YouTube stream, just one person, and that's me. Oh well. So yeah, we'll see you guys probably next Wednesday, but definitely next Thursday at noon Eastern. So have a good weekend. Thank you, Ange. Appreciate it. Have a great show, he says. Very cool. Awesome. See you next week.